I practice expressing my thought as much as possible. I try to do this whenever I could. Tell us about your interview. I remember being really nervous for my interview. I interviewed at Modern College where I had to interview. Actually, I had two more interviews, one at Martin College and one at City Hall, which is where I am now. And during these four interviews, I saw many interesting questions. One really interesting question I saw was a question about cube and the number of varieties a cube has. Well, 3 dimension, 4 dimension, and even higher dimension. And it didn't stop here. We also discussed how many edges there are in this dimension, and we tried to find a formula for each. Notice I thought is the quite interesting. There were also very hard questions. One particular question I remember is I was asked to sketch the normal distribution, which was like bell curve, and I was asked to sketch its derivative by I and its derivative as well, so to derivatives.
And that was easy enough. You just sketch it. And then he asked me, do I notice anything about the number of turning points and the number of reads as we go down? And then I noticed actually that as they differentiate each time, the number of reads and the number of turning points increased by 1. And then the question was given to me, can you prove that formula is true? And that was really difficult. I was really stumped at the beginning. Actually, I didn't know what to say, but luckily for me, the interviewer, he gave me a prompt. He gave me a hint about some theorem that is really useful for this. And I immediately managed to use this hint and then go on to answer the question. I thought I was really scared at first, but really rewarding at the end. I didn't get anything about my personal statement in the interview. I thought it wasn't too strange. I suppose they took the interviews. Which aspect appealed the most to the tutors?
I think that interview really like to see me struggle the question because they want to see how I think. They want to see the verses in which I go about a question. So they really like giving me the question. So that I do struggle with it, and they will often give me it to see if I can cooperate with them. If I do attend to university to prepare for the interview, I keep that in mind. I practice expression my thought as much as possible. I did this by speaking out loud when I be with myself. Answering a math question, I try to do this whenever I call.
Oxford Mathematics Interview Preparation.
Well, I have also mentioned that I try to speak my talk as much as possible. Rather than that, I was really keen on solving math BMU question, British Math Olympiad question. I feel like that helped out a lot my problem-solving skill. It gave me a good intuition on how to solve question, and I think it made me better problem solver all around. I did mock interview with my teacher.
And they were kind enough to do the session with me, and they emphasized that I should be speaking my talk as much as possible. Even when I was struggling to come up with an answer, they encouraged me time and time again to try to give suggestions as how to solve problems. For example, maybe we can solve this by intent, even though you are not sure how you will do that, and so on.
So I did this thing quite often, and I did about 2 times a week with my teacher. This mock interview, this other thing I mentioned. I try to keep them on getting in my background as I prepare for my interview.